Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. This is the NGCP National Webinar, Hosting Girls STEAM Ahead with NASA Events, Tips for Using Free NASA Resources. Before we hear from our wonderful speakers, I'm going to first share some information about the National Girls Collaborative Project. The vision of the National Girls Collaborative Project is to support and create science, technology, engineering, and mathematics experiences that are as diverse as the world we live in. To do this, NGCP connects, creates, and collaborates with a network of advocates to promote equity and to transform STEM for girls and for all youth. NGCP exists because today's STEM experiences continue to lack diversity. Many young people do not identify with the field, and to create change, our work empowers providers, educators, leaders, and youth themselves. NGCP believes that STEM skills can be acquired by anyone and fostered in anyone. Our initiatives build confidence and create a community of lifelong STEM activators. Through the power of collaboration, we spark curiosity and develop a passion for STEM. We share resources and solutions with a coalition of leaders via our website, newsletters, online databases, social media, and webinars just like this one. NGCP also strengthens the capacity of programs by producing and sharing exemplary practices, research, and program models. When programs are stronger and more sustainable, girls and youth are better served. We distribute these resources in accessible formats, such as train-the-trainer programs, partnerships, and online platforms. And finally, we leverage our network of girl-serving STEM programs, advocates, and youth so that together we can create the tipping point for gender equity in STEM. The National Girls Collaborative Project engages in many activities virtually and nationally, as well as through local collaboratives. NGCP partners with organizations to scale and deliver content, such as the Leap into Science National Network in partnership with the Franklin Institute, and the Million Girls Moonshot in partnership with STEM Next and the Mott After School State Networks, serving hundreds of educators via large local networks. NGCP is also working with Lyda Hill Philanthropies and has launched the If Then Collection, a digital library housing photos, videos, and other media of women in STEM fields. These media are available at no cost. NGCP also hosts the Youth Advisory Board. The Youth Advisory Board helps to review and provide feedback on current NGCP initiatives and assists in informing the future direction of the National Girls Collaborative Project. We also manage the Connectory, the largest national database of STEM opportunities. The Connectory also provides a way for program providers to connect and to collaborate with each other. FabFems is an international database of female role models from many STEM fields. They are passionate about the work they do, and they are ready to connect with programs to spark girls' interests. We offer regular webinars, such as this one, focused on research and exemplary practices to help our network grow and thrive. Locally, state collaborative leadership teams offer convenings, providing professional development, mini grants for innovative projects when funding is available, as well as they distribute their own newsletters spotlighting local resources. The National Girls Collaborative Project has been partially funded by the National Science Foundation since 2002. We began as the Northwest Girls Collaborative Project, focused on Washington and Oregon, and then as we presented our collaboration model to others, we were invited to expand across the US. While NGCP programs and partners are located in every state, we have 33 collaboratives serving 41 states facilitating collaboration between 42,000 organizations serving more than 20 million girls and also 10 million boys. And with that, I am thrilled to introduce our wonderful speakers that we have with us today. First, we have Quinn Hart. Dr. Quinn Hart is a senior education and outreach scientist at the Space Telescope Science Institute. She works on several projects for NASA's Universe of Learning, including Girls Steam Ahead with NASA, View Space, and science briefings. She also supports public outreach efforts for the Hubble Space Telescope, the upcoming James Webb Space Telescope, and the future Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope. Thanks so much for joining us today, Quinn. And next we have Bree Oatman. Bree Oatman, PhD, is the Education Director at the South Dakota Discovery Museum. Bree received her bachelor's degree in biology at Evergreen State College and her master's in organizational leadership and teaching from Gonzaga University, and her PhD in science education from the University of Idaho. She is also currently pursuing a master's in chemistry education from South Dakota State University. Bree describes herself as a science learning alchemist, 1 part science, 2 parts creativity, 1 part fun. Bree helps create culturally sustaining curriculum for K-12 classrooms and informal learning environments. She also partners with different organizations to build capacity for STEM education. Thank you so much for joining us, Bree. Next, we have Lorena Harris. Lorena Harris, PhD, is the C-STEP and LSAM Director at SUNY Schenectady Community College. She is a member of the New York State Girls Collaborative, the Schenectady STEM Alliance, NGCP, the American Association for the Advancement of Science, and the American Chemical Society. She is also the 2019 Margaret Ashita STEM Leadership Award recipient, as well as an educator, mom, and FabFeb role model. Thank you, Lorena. And finally, we have Melanie Ubeli. Melanie Ubeli, Program Coordinator and Educator for SUNY Schenectady's Liberty Partnerships Program. Melanie has worked in youth development for over 20 years and has extensive experience creating, developing, and implementing original, engaging, and relevant programs for youth. Thank you so much to our wonderful speakers for joining us today. We are really looking forward to hearing from all of you. I am going to turn it over to Quinn first to share some insights about NASA's Universe of Learning and also the Girls Steam Ahead with NASA program.
Thank you, Kata. Kelly, next slide, please. So I will talk to you today. Again, my name is Dr. Quinn Hart. I'm an astronomer and outreach scientist at the Space Telescope Science Institute in Baltimore, Maryland, and part of NASA's Universe of Learning here. Next slide, please. So what is NASA's Universe of Learning? It's an astrophysics STEM informal education learning program that's funded by NASA Science Mission Directorate. And we focus on astrophysics, so everything pretty much beyond our own solar system, where learners of all ages and backgrounds are engaged and immersed in exploring the universe for themselves. Next slide, please. So what is this program and how is it unique? Well, this program, NASA's Universe of Learning, provides a direct connection to the science through the different NASA space telescopes, like Hubble, like the upcoming James Webb Space Telescope, as you might have heard, is going to be launching soon. The future Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope, the Chandra X-ray Telescope, many different telescopes run by NASA to answer questions such as, how does the universe work? Are we alone? And how did we get here? Next slide, please. One of the projects under NASA's Universe of Learning is Girls Steam Ahead with NASA, which is what you're going to hear about today from our other speakers. And our program here really is to empower you all at libraries, at community-based organizations, to host your own events to engage girls and their families in science, technology, engineering, art, and math here. And to do this, we want you to think about having them learn about how we know what we know about the universe, what's the process of science, and also to foster their STEM identity. We do this by providing you all with exhibits, different examples of community programming, hands-on resources, paper-based, computer-based, that are based on NASA astrophysics, as well as opportunities to interact with subject matter experts. Next slide, please. And our goals are very much similar to the goals of, sorry about that, similar to the goals of NGCP, and I'm sure very similar to your own goals when you're hosting your events. Increasing the scientific literacy of our audience, reaching underserved and underrepresented communities, reinforcing that idea of the scientific practices that go into learning what we know about the universe, developing that identity even at a very young age, and really doing this by thinking about new technologies. Next slide, please. So how can you do this? As I mentioned earlier, there are exhibits that you can borrow to show at your host site, or you can also print them down. They're all free. Some are in other languages. Next slide. We have lots of hands-on STEM activities as well. So for example, we have a whole coding and image processing unit that I'll talk about later in our program Cookbook, where you can learn about binary code. Perhaps you have access to a 3D printer. You might want to hold a star, a dead star in your hand. What about the scale model of a solar system, or learning about the expansion of the universe? We have activities and activity guides to go with that. Next slide. We want to encourage the youth in your audiences to really think of them as scientists. So perhaps you might show some of these posters, these women in STEM posters in your hallways, up when you're doing an event. Perhaps you have a younger crowd and you can give them the coloring sheets. We have these great exoplanet posters as well to understand what is an exoplanet, what's so unique about these worlds. Next slide, please. Now, I know many of you might be doing one, please. Some of you are doing virtual activities, and so are there web-based activities that you can do in a virtual environment? Absolutely. We have an activity where you can learn about how we do image processing. You can use a telescope, take a picture, have it emailed to you and try to process it. So there's a variety of different things you can do just over the internet with your audience in a virtual setting. Next slide, please. This includes science visualizations that you can display, interactives that they can use on a tablet, on their phones, videos. You can also go and join an Ask an Astronomer Live video series and share that at your event. Next slide. Now, what's so unique here, as I mentioned before, is the subject matter expert involvement in all the things that we do. They're embedded in everything. They work hand in hand with our education and communication experts to design and implement these activities. We bring the latest results to you through the products of NASA's Universe of Learning. And we can connect you with a subject matter expert as you do your event planning. This is extremely important. I'll drop these URLs in a little bit so you have them for yourself here. But you can, if you have your event planned and you're in that early stages, then go ahead and request your SME, and it'll come to our team, and most likely it'll come directly to me so that we can do a matching. Next slide, please. A new resource that we have here is our program Cookbook. It is for you all. It's for the facilitators. We've developed this to guide you as you create your own Girls Steam Ahead with NASA event. NASA's Universe of Learning is very, very much rich with so many different resources. And sometimes we have heard that you can get overwhelmed. And so we were trying to make it really organized by topic so that you can think about, I want to do an event that's just around infrared light or X-ray light or radio light. And we've organize things into menus of activities and resources and background resources so that you can really get a hold of what that event looks like. And we even have sample scenarios that you can follow if you don't know where to start for 60 minutes, or you can expand it to 90 minutes. You can adapt it for a younger audience, an older audience, a virtual audience, a hybrid audience. So we've tucked in these tips and adaptations throughout, and we have new content coming soon. So this is a resource for all of you. And what you'll hear in the next two speakers here is how they were able to take NASA's Universal Learning resources and really infuse their event in a way that made sense for their audience, for their location and in their time frame. So I'll pass it off to the next speaker here, and I'll take questions at the end. Thank you. You're muted.
Okay. I think that Kata's having a bit of a computer issue, tech issue right now. So I'm going to thank Quinn, and we'll now pass it off to Bree, followed by Lorena and Melody, to share how they used and are planning to use some Girls STEAM Ahead with NASA resources at their events.
All right, hello everybody. So I am in Pierce, South Dakota, which is in the middle of the state, and we traditionally have a planetarium, one of those inflatable dome type of deals that we use, and we haven't been able to use it since February of 2020 for obvious reasons. We also are in, our facility is an old power plant for the city. So it's this really, really cool historic building with brick and windows. You can see behind me, it's super funky. But we also have limited space and fire safety issues. So where we used to also offer the planetarium experiences, the fire marshal basically said no to that too. We had to get creative, and the company that we have our projector from and our data for doing all the star shows actually updated their equipment, and they now have a hard drive that can connect to any kind of projector and be projected on any surface. It does not have to be in that fishbowl planetarium. So we raised $5,000 to lease it for a year and decided that this would be a really cool way to kind of launch that with our Girls STEAM Ahead funding. And our initial plan was to partner with Girl Scouts, and they have a group cabin at a state park, a Wahi downstream recreation area, and to do a big event with Girl Scouts. And that all just kind of fell apart this summer because of scheduling issues with regional scouts. But we decided we would do an official Starry Saturday event, because we used to do those once a month before COVID as well, and have it be kind of our relaunch of Starry Saturdays and do it outside and have telescopes and take advantage of the beautiful weather we had. So we held it on a Saturday in September at a state park that's located on the Missouri River right next to the city of Pierre. We even had people camp just for the event, which is really cool. And we reserved a picnic shelter right next to their little amphitheater where they have a screen, and we projected on the screen in the amphitheater. So we set out activities, some included from the Girls STEAM Ahead. So you can go to the next slide. So we specifically obviously use the logo material to promote our event. And then there's two particular activities that were easy for us to do at a picnic table in a park. And that was the taking pieces from the Trappist activity, and then also expanding universe, which involves balloons and doing some stuff thinking about some of the physics in the universe. And then we also use some resources we have from the National Informal Science Education Network that deal with Earth and space science, as well as some other kind of creative things we just kind of pulled out of our back pocket. We had NASA bags with a bunch of swag in them, like temporary tattoos and other resources for the kids to have. And so we set all these activities up around 6:30 p.m. and did that until sunset. And then we went down to the amphitheater, and you can go to the next slide. And then we went down. So this is just an example of some of the activities we had. We used the NASA has the Starfinder thing. It's like a little fortune teller kind of deal. You can print out and make and figure out what constellations are in the night sky depending on the month. So we had those for the kids to make before we started the star show as well. And then you can see the amphitheater area with our projection. Go ahead and go to the next slide. And then this is a couple of the examples of activities from the that we had there. This one's modeling how mass, gravity pulling mass together, and eventually get enough mass, you can get a star forming and so on. And then the star show happened, and then we had telescopes set out and binoculars on tripods, and people could actually observe various celestial objects in the sky, which is really great. And we actually picked September 11th because it was a quarter moon, and it's actually a little bit more interesting when you use a quarter moon versus the new moon, because you can see the shadow on the moon if you've got good enough binoculars and telescopes. We actually got to see the rings on Saturn, and we saw 3 of Jupiter's moons, which was really, really cool. And saw some satellites going across, and actually figured out what satellites they were using some fun apps. The Stellarium app is one that I recommend for people if you're trying to do that. So it was really cool to just kind of be able to pull together resources from all of the University of Learning and these other sources that we had to put this together. We had about 60 attendees. About half of those were kids, mostly girls, and their parents. And which was great because there were people there that I've never seen before. They haven't come to any of our other events. And so that was kind of a cool thing to see, including people who were just there to camp and then found out about the event. And, like they're from out of town, for example, and then they showed up at our picnic shelter and participated. Next slide. And so, one of the fun things about this, which is why I joke about being an alchemist of learning, is I'm an idea person, and seeing these resources, like even just kind of going back through and looking through stuff again, the initial meetings that I had preparing for this, I realized there were some resources that I'd missed, or we decided not to use at the time because we knew we'd be outside and we didn't want to print a bunch of stuff, and where would we hang it up? Like these posters, for example. But we are one of the 500 locations around the country that's partnering with NASA for the Webb Space Telescope launch. And I applied for a little mini grant from a humanities council, and I'm going to be putting on a play about Henrietta Leavitt as part of that celebration in December. And so I will be using this resource for that in our promotional materials. And then also we plan to have exhibits up in the lobby of the theater where the play is going to be performed for the one night, celebrating women in science, and also focusing on different things related to the telescope. And then we have 2 Saturday events at the Discovery Center where we'll have pop-up activities going on, where we'll be able to pull more resources from the Girls Steam Ahead to have out on the floor for people to use and to learn.
And I guess it's Kata, are you still off? Is it our turn now?
Yeah, I apologize. I was having a technical issue. Can you all hear me? Wonderful. Yes. I was just going to thank Bree and then just ask Lorena and Melanie to share on their projects. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you're back, Kata. Thanks for the opportunity to present and share today our experience. We did a collaboration with an educator and us here, and we have to say that we could have not done it properly without the help of you all, like Quinn or the Steam Ahead with NASA collaborators. How we did it. So we can move to the next slide. Thank you. We started talking about what a physicist is and what an astrophysicist is and what is physics. And so we told all the kids and the audience students to imagine they're scientists. And then we defined what physics is and what astrophysicists are, which seek to understand the universe and our place in it. And after doing that, we decided to, well, we gave them a pre-survey. We kind of like we previously set up 4 stations, and in each station we talk about a fundamental phenomenon in physics. So if we can go to the next slides, that will be great. And so we got inspired by using the University of Learning's curriculum, and we saw the Astro Olympics and the Astro Olympics in the winter and the summer as a great opportunity to inspire kids. And so we showed them a teaser. we told them we were going to be learning about these 4 different topics or fundamentals in physics, like time, mass, distance, speed, density, and rotation. And we use these resources as our way to explain to them that they are going to be learning about the metric system. And so these are very important kind of topics to really understand all the more in-depth phenomena in physics. So we think that's very important to learn from the beginning. And so I partnered with our great educator, Miss Melanie, and we developed these 4 stations where small groups of 2 or 3 or 4, they could join for 15 minutes to do an activity connected to time or mass or distance or speed. And then each station was kind of like led by a CS-step mentor or a student in the college who will know what was the output of the particular station, and it will time it or take the opportunity to kind of like make it a little game or a little color challenge. So they all have different colors, and we gave prizes that were the kind of the printouts of these amazing flyers from the universe of learning, where if we can go to the next slide, maybe we can see a few of them. So they were teased by seeing the videos, and we developed a couple of these flyers and support materials and activities to connect the audience with and learn about the metric systems. And because we had this great conversation about why are we the only country in the world that actually use centimeters, meters, in kilometers, and why is that? And we saw a few videos that were connected to the Astro Olympics and to yes, and then if we can move to the next slide, that would be great. We'll divide it in groups by colors, and we started with I think the most important or the most liked one was distance. So I think Melanie will maybe share a little bit of how she did it. Correct?
Yeah, so again, the materials from the Astro Olympics are just fabulous because they enable the students to see, and we just saw the Olympics because it was postponed a year. We saw it this summer and we're having the winter, but it allowed the students to see these different concepts like rotation, and it says how many hertz the figure skater is rotating. So then in one of our stations, the students sat on a chair and spun around, and we found out how many hertz they were going. And then to compare that to the celestial things, the curriculum is really good. And one of our stations was the scale model solar system, which we did by using the adding machine tape. So they used that. And then when Quinn was doing her presentation, I saw that there are NASA resources for that as well. This is something that we had done before, and you just need to have some coins and a little piece of a nerd candy, and by folding the paper and tracing the coins, then you get to make the scale model. And the students were really struck by how close the inner planets are to the sun, and then by how far it was to go to all of the outer planets. So they really enjoyed making that, and all of the stations. And at each of the stations, we had the posters from the Astro Olympics curriculum posted, and we wanted the students to participate in full body because we were comparing these celestial things to Olympic athletes. So, for example, in the weight station, they stood on a scale and they used their muscles to increase their weight. And then we talked about how if they were on the moon or somewhere else, their mass would stay constant, but their weight would change. And then we try to calculate their percent change in weight and different things like that for prizes. So it was a lot of fun, and we really enjoyed using that curriculum of the Astro Olympics. I guess that's all I have, Lorena.
Awesome. Thank you, Melanie.
Mhm.
Miss Mel. And if we can move to the next slide. Thank you. Yes, so we did a speed as well. And as you can see in the background, we have the speed. This is kind of like what they saw. And they all wanted to have a copy of those posters. So we made a few awards and gave them as the prizes of the event. And if we can move to the next one. We also did time, and we talk about the 7 minutes of terror, although we were instructed by the subject matter experts of the NASA family, specific information about the time and how and why they set a small delay that we thought it wasn't that small to begin with. And so they learn how long do you have to wait to see those pictures that are taken in the space in seconds and minutes and hours, and also check some, we show them some videos, and we can go to the next slide. That would be great. And so we also talk about mass and weight with some of the activities that Miss Mel just mentioned about just weighting themselves or just weighting themselves, or seeing the difference in the weight and mass. And we explore a little bit about density, and they calculated some of those percentages, some of them. And we can go to the next slide. We are excited to meet with hopefully many of them coming back next week. This happened actually last week, and we hope next week we can meet again. And this might be hybrid event if we can live stream with Dudley Observatory former astrophysicist and as our subject matter expert that is in another part of the state of New York, and some students from the area. And yeah, so we are going to be also launching a pre-launch celebration community event to celebrate the James Webb Telescope that it's been actually sponsored also by our community and cultural events in our institution. So being part of the big 500 family members of the NASA Universe of Learning and the STEAM Ahead with NASA allow us to really share all this amazing background information about the NASA James Webb Space Telescope that will be happening in December. Yes, and now it's already in French Guiana, if I understand correctly. And so they're gonna get all that ins and outs of what's how it was made, and amazing videos, and a couple of arts activities we are adding to it just for fun, to have them maybe express themselves in the way of using art. And yes, I think this is we are very thankful for the opportunity to learn more, to have these resources available for our community. And yes, I'll stop talking. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Now we're going to open it up for some questions and answers. I didn't see any questions come in through the chat. So please feel free to type your questions in the chat, or feel free to please use the raise hand feature on Zoom, and you can unmute yourself and ask your question. I'm just going to give it a moment to let folks think about any questions that they might have. I see a few questions that came into the chat. Thank you so much. So Lisa is asking, what is usually the lead time on requesting an expert?
That's a great question, Lisa. So ideally not the day before, not the week before. A month is usually okay. In this time with the James Webb Space Telescope being launched next month, there's lots of subject matter experts who are being called on for Webb launch activities. But in general, I can usually, 2 months is usually a good amount of time. I could pretty much ensure that you'll get somebody. It's really the matching piece. Depending on the needs. Right now, it's been easier because of virtual connections. If it's in person, we leave it up to the discretion of the subject matter expert if they feel comfortable with doing that. But it's never expected for that to happen. We have a database at NASA's Universal Learning. We have a database of subject matter experts who help in a variety of products across NASA's Universe of Learning. So once you have your date, that's the key piece, is that you have a date in mind, because when I go and find your subject matter expert, I try to give them as many details as possible for them to say yes. So if you say, I know that I'm going to have an event on this day, I need a subject matter expert to talk about X, Y, or Z, maybe you're not sure, or the time commitment's an hour, having more details up front for that request means you're more likely going to get a match.
Thank you for that question, Lisa. We had a few more questions come in through the chat. First, Karen asked, how do we find the NASA materials?
For NASA's Universal Learning, you can go to, there are a couple places you can go. You can go to our main, so this is all of the astrophysics NASA resources. So NASA's Universal Learning concentrates on all astrophysics over all the different space missions like Hubble, Spitzer, Chandra, upcoming Webb, and other past telescopes. So if you go there, you'll learn about some of the resources that we have. They're all free, all there for you to use. We have downloadable resources. We have video resources, multimedia resources. NASA as a whole, if you go to the main NASA site, there is a tab, I believe, for educators and resources, and you can filter through that as well. There's another resource called NASA Wavelength, which is kind of a database of activities that you can go look through. So there are many resources and it is hard to sift through them. So that's where our program Cookbook, the Girls Steam Ahead with NASA program Cookbook, is giving you a kind of steering the ship for you, if you want to think about that way, that for astrophysics content, we have a starting point for you if you're not sure where to start. And then just like you heard from Bree and Lorena and Melanie, is that you kind of find, well, what works, what you're thinking, where, oh, this really, I can use this and it goes well right here. And then you're thinking about your activity as a whole, your audience the best. And for those of you who are trying to plan, maybe you don't have an idea. And that's where the whole team at Girls Steam Ahead with NASA is here to help you. So you just reach out to us, and I'll drop our email in a second here. And I can have that conversation with you to kind of imagine what you're trying to do, and whatever way that you need support, we're here to do that. So that's one way to find the resources. But it is NASA has many resources across earth science as well, and astrophysics and solar system and helio. So first figure out what topic you want to use, or whatever the topic that you want your event to be about. And then that's how I would start narrowing it down. But for all astrophysics, you can start with NASA's Universe of Learning. And I saw there was a question, is there a cost for the expert? Through NASA's Universe of Learning and Girls Steam Ahead, there is no cost. It's just a matter of you submitting a request under Girls Steam Ahead with NASA. When you go to the form, there's going to be a drop-down menu for what program you're seeking a subject matter expert, and I'm dropping it in the chat right now. And you'll see there's a Girls Steam Ahead option, and that's what you want, and that's how I'll get the email, or my team will get the email.
Wonderful, thank you for all that information. So many great resources to choose from. We had another question come in the chat asking if they can get copies of the posters.
So we unfortunately do not have, due to COVID, we can't be in our offices, and we only have limited supplies. As far as I know, I don't think we have any more to give out. But the thing is that you are able to download everything and print them out yourself. And we even have them in little postcard sizes. So there's, I don't have any posters here, with posters that are about this big that you can hang on your walls. So if you print them out, you have them There you go. Thank you, Melanie. There's one of the Astro Olympics ones on rotation. So once you print it out, if you, depending on how you display it, you can reuse it. But if you want to print it out in hard cardstock, you're able to do that too. As far as I know, I don't think we personally at Girls Steam Ahead with NASA have any more to give out for free. And I'll drop the poster link in here too.
Thank you. I think we had a related question regarding materials. Allison asked, what materials are available across all 50 states? For example, can someone in the Northeast request a speaker and have that speaker be virtual?
Virtual makes it very easy to connect anybody anywhere in all 50 states. So put your request in if you know about it. Earlier, the better. Yep. And in that email list, there's other details you can provide too. So for Girls Steam Ahead with NASA, we know that having a role model for the girl identifying audience is really important. And our evaluations of these events have shown that having that role model there, that scientist there really helps the audience to see themselves as scientists in the future. So incorporating, think of the subject matter expert as just another part of your event that's really vital. Like you think about as Melanie and Lorena said, the teaser, like how do you get them excited and then bring them along for the ride, and including your subject matter experts is one of those aspects there, right somewhere in the middle. And having them be able to ask questions. I personally just did a web launch event myself last weekend, and once they are comfortable with the subject matter expert, they will ask questions forever, and it's great, and it's amazing to see them interested. You can even see that in that virtual environment. So yeah, we'll connect you if it's just a matter of availability.
Great, thank you. We have another question. This question is from Rebecca. If someone isn't sure where to start with a particular topic, do you have any suggestions on kind of a popular topic that you would start with or suggest?
Yeah, these are great questions. Thank you. I would start, well, let me see. Let's throw that question to our speakers first, and I can follow up. So Lorena, Melanie, or Bree, what were you thinking about when you were kind of thinking about your Girls Steam Ahead with NASA event?
I initially, like I said, when I first learned about it, I was like, oh, this would be a great opportunity to partner with Girl Scouts, and immediately kind of thought about doing something outside because I knew we'd be getting this new tech, and trying to do something different because we hadn't really ever done an event like that in a park, like to have this pop-up event at a park. And so just kind of thinking about how do you do that when you don't have access to all of your gadgets? And we had electricity, but when you don't have, it could be windy, it could be raining, like you just don't know what nature is going to be doing for you. Are there going to be clouds in the sky? All those kinds of things. And so really just kind of thinking about how to be creative with doing something outside versus being indoors and or having to do something virtually. And also, I think part of my thinking was, okay, knowing that this would be like a pop-up, like a one-time event, it's very short, then what do we do? How do we kind of keep sustaining this interest? And at the time, like right after that is when we found out about web and that we've been picked. And so it's just been really fun to see like how there's all these new connections that kind of keep building off of this opportunity. And like I forgot to mention in my presentation, actually, we also received some funding through ASTC or Aztec and the National Girls Collaborative related to using the If Then collection to feature women in science. And so we are partnering with our after school network in our state who have these trailers that go out for pop-up maker spaces. And we're putting in a kit that's specifically about the web telescope, but we're including all of these posters about women and women astronomers, women astrophysicists, and different activities. And also thinking about how do we make connections to Indigenous star knowledge and focusing on the Lakota star knowledge, because a lot of the populations we work with are on the reservations. And so that's been my next state. That was kind of like the next stage of thinking is like, okay, how do I keep using this? What do I, how do I bring in more pieces and continue to make those connections with Universal Learning as well? And because once you start, you'll notice that you'll click on something and you're like, oh, wait, that's connected to this organization. And we do this with this organization. And so right now, by the way, somebody from NASA Artemis is upstairs having a meeting with our staff about their program and how we can partner with them. And so it's just kind of this, I had to like walk away from them talking about that mission to come to this. So there's a lot of just great ways that you start. It's like a rabbit hole. You start from Alice in Wonderland, right? You start doing one thing and the next thing you know, you're connected to all these other things, and it's exciting.
Yes, if I can add to that, maybe, sorry, I don't know if I talk on top of somebody, but Mel, you go next, I guess. Relating, it's an amazing way to learn. And so what we see when we went to these websites, the Universe of Learning, and then we started to find out different resources. We sat down and talk about how can we do these in activities that will help the students and the kids to be excited, but also to apply the learning and learn and remember, these event as the time when they're connected. This chair moving in circles, or this big distance or short distance between different cookies or candies, or the nerds, which they love to have a nerd box in their hands to be able to munch into it. So then that's the earth, and then they connect that with the pennies. So it's all about those apply learning experiences, that things that they know, that now they're putting into the physics concepts and learning the fundamentals. So the Universe of Learning is a wonderful place to go in and you will get lost and overwhelmed. So talk to Quinn, and she will probably guide you through what is time, and and she will break it down into smaller pieces and guide you to the best videos that they have, because they have so many, but using your support system and all these opportunities that you have been learning from all those links. Yes, don't feel overwhelmed, but just breathe and just ask or send an email, and you'll make it through. It's not that hard. It's just a matter of organization and asking some questions. And yes, so Mel, I don't know if Miss Mel wanted to mention something else.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that you don't personally have to be a subject matter expert, because I'm certainly not. But like, for example, we knew that we had the James Webb planned for later on, and we knew that this would be a really good way to get the youth, the younger students, really excited about it, because they get to do the full body activities, and they're seeing everyday things and relating it to the stellar things. And then even within here, like the picture on this poster, this was taken by the Chandra X-ray telescope. So then it gives you an entry into talking about that. And there's a short video you can watch about that. And so it's just, if you look through the resources, it kind of helps you just plan it out, because everything's there. And then you can just add in, for age appropriate or what you're looking for. So just explore it, and it will basically just start forming itself. So it's a lot of really good resources.
Yeah, thank you, Lorena, Melanie, and Bree, for some of the suggestions on where you started and how you saw it. And so going back to the original question of someone, where would you think there was a popular topic, which one would you suggest? So when we were reaching out to facilitators, the early part of last year, one of our questions was, what topics are you really interested in sharing with your audience? What do you want to do, and where do you want to start? And the things that came bubbling up was light, just in general, what is light? The fact that there's all different kinds of light, and how do we get pictures of things from space? So our two recipes that the recipes in our program cookbook, that's why those two are there, because we heard those topics floating to the top. So my personal preference, I've done astronomy outreach for a long time, held my own summer camps for middle school girls, taught college astronomy and physics, and did it from the pre-K all the way to 100, I guess you can say. And light is one of those things that people think they know it, but they don't really know it. They're not really sure about telescopes and how they work. So thinking about light, just for example, because we've been talking about web, perhaps you really want to get your community excited about infrared light and getting your girl identifying audience really interested to learn about, like, how is light a tool for astronomers? And in our program Cookbook, we have a 60-minute event scenario that's just talking about light, and it uses the resources that we have, multimedia, things that you can do on a tablet, things that you can show on your screen through Zoom. We have a bingo activity, a multi-wavelength bingo activity to talk about the different kinds of light. You can do it virtually, you could do it in person, you could do it hybrid. So we included those tips and ways to adapt these 60-minute events for something that will work for you. So if you don't know where to start, I highly suggest starting there for light. And then if you want to get into image processing, the binary code things are really, really fun. So having them write their name in binary with colored pony beads, or making a necklace or things like that. So once you get more comfortable in those areas of those topics, and then the universe of learning resources, then you'll get more comfortable to spread out into more topics. But we, like Lorena was saying, we're happy to answer questions, and you can shoot us an email and we can answer them. If you have a science question, you can send them there. If you have an event question, you can send them there. We'll see them.
Great, thank you so much for all of those examples. We had another question come into the chat. Lisa asked, do you have adaptable resources for learners with disabilities? And also related, are there programs you could suggest for a sensory event?
We do have a couple. Off the top of my head, we do have some tactile. If you have access to a 3D printer, you can print out some of these resources to touch what a crab nebula would look like. There are also sonification resources that one of our team members at Girls Steam Ahead with NASA is working on. So there's some audio resources to imagine if you put a tone to a certain color of light and you swept it across. Actually, I have an infrared multi-wavelength view of the center of the Milky Way in my background here. And this image has a sonification piece to it, which is really great. I'll drop it in the chat in a second. So there are a variety of things. Lisa, I think that was Lisa, just email me and I can point you to more resources. I just don't have them handy here. I'm sorry.
Quinn, I have some. So there's this from NASA. It's a tactile guide to the solar system, and it's in braille. And then it has, so for example, it has, let's see, comparative planet size, and it's actually like a 3D relief, so you can feel it. And then there's braille that comes with it. There's also, this is National Braille Press by Noreen Grice, and it's called Touch the Stars. And there's different stories about different constellations also. And then again, the constellation deck, like the actual image, is also has relief to it. And then this all came in a kit, I think, from the NICE network. So here's one. This is 3D printed. It says NASA will land Americans on the moon's South Pole. That's actually what we were just talking about upstairs. And then it's the Shackleton crater, and just showing what Earth is with an arrow, and you can feel it and touch it and stuff, which is great. And then there's some braille on the sides. And then here's a book by the woman who put together that astronomy, the constellation book. So this kit, let's see. Yeah, there's several resources in here. Actually, there's a book on Mars. There's another one about actually getting to the moon, one about Mars, and it came with 2 from Mars. These are all from NASA. But it looks like the NICE network is the ones who distributed it. So I will see if I can find the link to this specifically on their website, and I'll put it in the chat.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing those resources and for the visuals. I think because we are quickly running out of time, I'm going to pass it back to Quinn just to share a little bit more about the implementation stipends. And we're pulling up the slides.
Thanks, Kata. So what we do here at Girls Steam Ahead with NASA and collaborating with the National Girls Collaborative here is that every year we work with NGCP to award implementation stipends to encourage facilitators to really design and host their own event using our different NASA's Universal Learning resources. The stipends are $400. A host site can only receive this award once, and the speakers that you heard today were the 2021 awardees. We had 4. The funds here are used to support the events, like buying materials, anything needed for the event itself. And the request for a proposal announcement is anticipated to be about early February. So just kind of keep your eye open for that. And we look forward to hearing from you. But even if you don't, if you're please reach out to us for any support that you might need. We are very, very much happy to help you imagine and really create Girls Steam Ahead with NASA programming all year round and not just a one-off. Thank you. Oh, I think we have a poll. Do we have a poll question? Really quick one.
Yes, let me pull that up.
So one of the things that came up in our Girls Steam Ahead with NASA discussion here in a virtual environment is that sometimes it goes back to that subject matter expert. Can we get one? What if we can't get you one? When possible, we really encourage you to have an in-person or a live person. But how likely are you to include a pre-recorded presentation if a live SME is unavailable? If you can just put in your preference of, yes, I'd likely do that, I'm not sure I would do that, or not likely to do that, or unsure, that'd be great. Because we're trying to decide what would be one way to really make sure that everyone has some version of a subject matter expert in their event. And thank you for your responses. And I'll give it back to Kata there.
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you so much for filling out your responses to that poll. I'm going to end it and then just share the results so we can see it. It looks like folks are likely to share pre-recorded video based on that poll. Wonderful.
Great to hear.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Well, thank you so much to all of our fabulous speakers. I just wanted to remind everyone that the recording will be available for sharing publicly, and everyone who registered for the webinar will receive a link to the recording as well as the slides, and these will be posted to the NGCP webpage after the event, so you can expect those shortly. And before we go, I just wanted to remind everyone that we do have another upcoming NGCP national webinar next week, Monday, November 8th, Innovative Strategies from the Field, Leveraging the If-Then Collection. You'll hear from collaborative leads and local educators who will showcase the If-Then resources they are using in their work to engage youth. And one final reminder, we ask that you please complete the webinar survey to help us to provide feedback for us so that we can get new ideas on content for future webinars. And Kelly just put that survey in the chat. Thank you so much again, everyone, for joining us. And thank you again to our speakers. And I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.